Olivia checked the camera one last time, her reflection staring back at her from the screen. This was it, the big New Year's Eve livestream. Over 300,000 followers waited to see how she would ring in the new year. She had planned every detail. The rented cabin nestled deep in the woods, the sparkling lights strung along the porch, and the champagne chilling in the fridge. "Okay, Liv, time to shine," she muttered to herself as she hit the Go Live button. Her screen lit up with notifications as viewers flooded in, sending messages and hearts. "Happy New Year, Liv." "Cabin vibes are fire." "Where's everyone else?" The last question made her pause. She had promised a group celebration, but her friends had bailed last minute, leaving her alone. Olivia didn't want to cancel. It was her big night, after all, so she decided to play it off. "They're running late," she said with a bright smile, swirling her glass of champagne. "But hey, more time for us to hang out, right?" Her followers responded with enthusiasm, and Olivia felt herself relax. Hours passed as Olivia gave her audience a virtual tour of the cabin, shared her resolutions, and talked about her journey as an influencer. The cabin's charm was undeniable, with its rustic decor and a massive stone fireplace. But as the night deepened, things started to feel off. "Anyone else notice that?" one comment read. "Notice what?" Olivia asked, squinting at her chat. Someone was in the background. Olivia laughed nervously. "Guys, it's just me here." She glanced over her shoulder, the empty living room behind her, bathed in the soft glow of string lights. Shaking it off, she returned to her seat, but the unease lingered. As the clock neared midnight, Olivia decided to step outside to show her viewers the night sky. The air was crisp, the snow crunching under her boots as she set up her tripod. "Let's count down to midnight together," she said, her breath visible in the freezing air. The camera panned across the snowy expanse behind the cabin. Trees swayed gently in the wind, their shadows dancing eerily. "Is someone standing by the trees?" one comment read. Olivia's heart skipped a beat. She squinted into the darkness but saw nothing. "You guys are trying to scare me," she said with a nervous laugh. "Liv, I'm serious. Go back inside." "Not a joke, Liv. Look again." She moved closer to the camera, her pulse racing. The wind picked up, howling through the trees, and for a split second she thought she saw movement, a tall, shadowy figure slipping between the pines. "Okay, I think it's time to go inside," Olivia said, trying to keep her voice steady. As she reached for the tripod, a loud thud echoed from behind her. She spun around, her heart pounding. "Did you guys hear that?" she whispered. The chat exploded with messages. "Run! Liv, get out of there! Someone's behind you!" Olivia grabbed the tripod and sprinted back to the cabin, slamming the door shut behind her. Her chest heaved as she locked the door and bolted the windows. "This isn't funny anymore," she said, her voice shaking. "If this is some kind of prank—" Her screen froze for a moment, then flickered back. "Liv, the window," one viewer typed. She turned slowly, her blood running cold. In the window behind her, a faint outline of a face pressed against the glass, its breath fogging the pane. Olivia screamed, dropping the tripod. When she turned back, the face was gone. Her hands trembled as she grabbed her phone and dialed 911, but the line crackled with static before disconnecting. The chat was in chaos now. "Get in your car. Lock yourself in a room. Who is that?" Olivia grabbed a knife from the kitchen and backed into the living room. She kept her phone streaming, hoping someone would call for help. "Okay, Liv, think," she muttered to herself. "It's probably just some creep. They can't get in." But as she spoke, the lights flickered and went out. The only light now came from her phone, casting eerie shadows across the room. She moved slowly, trying to stay calm, but the silence was deafening. "Guys, I don't know what's happening," she whispered to her audience. "Please, if anyone knows where I am, send help." A loud bang came from upstairs, followed by the sound of footsteps. Olivia froze, tears streaming down her face. "Is someone there?" she called out, her voice cracking. The footsteps stopped, replaced by a low, guttural laugh that echoed through the cabin. Her chat went still, and then a single message appeared. "It's too late, Olivia." Her heart dropped. "Who wrote that?" she demanded. The footsteps resumed, growing louder. She clutched the knife, her hands shaking, as the door to the living room creaked open. The screen of her phone went black, but her viewers could still hear her screams. By the time authorities arrived the next morning, the cabin was empty. Olivia's phone was found in the snow outside, still recording. The final seconds of the video showed a dark figure standing over her before the screen cut to static. Her livestream account was deactivated hours later, with no explanation. To this day, her followers wonder what really happened that night, but the truth remains a chilling mystery. The Grand New Year's Masquerade Ball was in full swing, a sea of dazzling masks and elegant gowns filling the opulent hall. Music echoed from the grand piano, and laughter mingled with the clinking of champagne glasses. For Maria, the ball was her escape from a year filled with heartbreak and struggle. "This is your night," her best friend Sophie had said earlier, adjusting Maria's silver mask. "Let loose and leave the past behind." Maria had reluctantly agreed, her heart still heavy. She stepped into the glittering ballroom, her flowing midnight blue gown shimmering under the crystal chandeliers. She took a glass of champagne and wandered through the crowd, watching the guests laugh and twirl on the dance floor. Amidst the revelry, one figure stood out, a man in a deep crimson mask adorned with intricate black designs. He leaned casually against a pillar, his tall frame cloaked in a dark suit that seemed to absorb the light around him. Maria noticed him almost immediately. He wasn't mingling or drinking, just observing. "Who's that?" she asked Sophie, nodding toward the man. Sophie squinted. "I've never seen him before. Probably someone from the host's side." Maria couldn't shake the feeling that his gaze was fixed on her, even from across the room. She brushed it off, attributing it to the mysterious allure of the masquerade. As the night wore on, Maria tried to enjoy herself. She danced, laughed, and let the champagne blur her anxieties. But every time she glanced around, the man in the crimson mask was there, always at the edge of the crowd, watching. Her heart began to race, a mix of fear and curiosity. Who was he? Why wasn't he joining the celebration? She decided to confront him. Gathering her courage, she approached him, her heels clicking against the marble floor. "You've been standing here all night," she said, her voice steady but tinged with nervousness. "Why not join the party?" The man tilted his head slightly, his dark eyes visible through the mask. "The party is more interesting from here," he said, his voice low and smooth. There was something unsettling about the way he spoke, as though he wasn't just observing the crowd, but studying it. "Well, you're making people uncomfortable," Maria said, crossing her arms. "Am I making you uncomfortable?" he asked, his tone almost playful. Maria opened her mouth to respond, but before she could, the lights flickered. A murmur rippled through the crowd as the chandeliers dimmed and then brightened again. "Must be a power surge," Sophie said, appearing beside Maria. But Maria wasn't convinced. She glanced back at the man in the crimson mask, but he was gone. The night continued, but Maria couldn't shake her unease. She searched for the man, weaving through the crowd, but he had seemingly vanished. "Maria, are you okay?" Sophie asked. "I'm fine," Maria lied. "I just need some air." She stepped onto the balcony, the crisp winter air biting at her skin. The city lights twinkled in the distance, and for a moment she felt at ease, until she turned and saw him. The man in the crimson mask stood at the far end of the balcony, his figure silhouetted against the moonlight. "How did you—" Maria began, but he interrupted her. "You shouldn't have come here tonight," he said, his voice carrying a chilling finality. "What are you talking about?" Maria demanded, her fear bubbling to the surface. Before he could answer, the ballroom doors burst open, and a scream echoed through the night. Maria rushed back inside, her heart pounding. The scene was chaos. Guests were frantically trying to escape, their masks discarded in panic. "What's happening?" Maria asked Sophie, who grabbed her arm. "There's someone's hurt," Sophie stammered, pulling Maria toward the exit. But Maria's gaze was drawn to the center of the room, where a figure lay motionless on the floor, blood pooling around them. The man in the crimson mask was gone again. The police arrived shortly after, locking down the venue and questioning the guests. Maria sat in a corner, trembling. The man's words echoed in her mind. "You shouldn't have come here tonight." When it was her turn to be questioned, she described the man in the crimson mask, but none of the other guests remembered seeing him. "No one by that description was on the guest list," the officer said, his brow furrowed. Maria insisted, but it was as if the man had never existed. As the night dragged on, the guests were allowed to leave, one by one. Maria and Sophie walked to their car in silence, the joy of the evening replaced by dread. "Do you think he was real?" Sophie asked finally. Maria didn't answer. She wasn't sure anymore. Weeks later, Maria couldn't stop thinking about the man in the crimson mask. She avoided parties, withdrew from her friends, and even stopped wearing the color red. Then, one day, she received a package on her doorstep. Inside was a single item, a crimson mask, identical to the one the man had worn. No note, no explanation. Maria stared at it, her hands trembling. She knew deep down that the man hadn't been a guest, nor had he been human. Whatever he was, he had chosen her for a reason, and she wasn't sure she'd survive the next time he came. If you want to hear a story about a lighthouse, click here.